And geocentric in astrology. So a lot of people get confused with these terms, and that's what this channel is here for, to help you learn astrology for free. Please like, subscribe, comment, share if you dare, and care with peace and love. I'd appreciate it. And let's talk about this. So this is a practical compendium explaining the two fundamental reference frames used in astrological calculation and interpretation, with Earth-centered and Sun-centered diagrams, comparative tables, word examples for students, researchers, practitioners, whoever you may be. In this video, we're going to look at a few different things. First is going to be two reference frames and overview: geocentric astrology, the live sky; heliocentric astrology, the solar system view; visual comparison of the two systems, how positions differ, inner versus outer planets, planetary nodes, heliocentric and geocentric, practical uses of each system, worked examples, combining both perspectives, guidelines and cautions, appendix, quick reference. So, really quick, just want to give a quick shout out to my AI agent and Report Lab for helping craft this PDF compendium so I could bring it to you guys. So here you see two reference frames and overview, and every planetary position in an ephemeris or chart is measured relative to a chosen center. In almost all traditional and modern natal horary and mundane work, that center is the Earth. The resulting longitudes are geocentric. A smaller but coherent body of practice instead places the Sun at the center and calculates planetary longitudes as seen from the Sun. These are heliocentric positions. Two systems describe the same solar system from different vantage points. Geocentric astrology maps how planetary configurations appear and are experienced from the surface of the Earth. Heliocentric astrology maps the actual orbital architecture of the planets around the Sun. Neither is quote-unquote more true. Each answers a different question. This compendium clarifies the astronomical difference, shows where the numerical divergence is large or small, and surveys the interpretive uses that practitioners have developed for each frame. So geocentric astrology. Geocentric positions are the longitudes of the planets as they would be observed or would appear from the center of the Earth. They incorporate the Earth's own orbital motion around the Sun, which produces the familiar phenomena of retrograde motion, stations, and the varying speed of the planets through the zodiac. Because human life unfolds on Earth, the geocentric chart has been the default language of astrology for millennia. Houses, angles, ascendant, midheaven, and the local horizon are inherently geocentric constructs. They have no direct counterpart in a pure heliocentric map. Aspects in a geocentric chart describe angular relationships as they impinge on terrestrial experience, the weather of a day or a birth or an event. Key geocentric features that disappear or change meaning in heliocentric work include retrograde motion and stations, optical effects of Earth's relative motion, the moon as a distinct body with its own phases and nodes, the ascendant, midheaven, and house cusps, geocentric planetary nodes that oscillate through the year. So heliocentric astrology. Heliocentric positions place the Sun at the origin. The Earth itself becomes one of the planets, often labeled Earth or treated as a point opposite the geocentric Sun. There is no moon in the usual sense. The moon's geocentric motion is a local Earth-moon phenomenon. Retrograde motion vanishes for all planets. Every body moves steadily forward along its orbital path, apart from the very slow precession of nodes and apsides. Heliocentric charts are therefore maps of the solar system's actual geometric configuration at a given moment. Practitioners who use them often emphasize themes of collective pattern, evolutionary or systemic process, and the impersonal architecture within which individual lives are embedded. Aspects become statements about the true angular relationships among the planets as seen from the system's gravitational center. Because houses and angles require a local horizon, pure heliocentric work usually dispenses with a traditional house system or adopts specialized conventions, for example, treating the Earth's Sun axis as a fundamental polarity. Alright, so here we're going to look at visual comparison of the two systems versus a schematic contrast. The Earth centered on the left, lived experience, and this is going up against Sun-centered right reference frames, solar system view. So remembering that this is geocentric. The Earth is right there. The Sun right there. And then for heliocentric, the Earth is right here, the Sun's right here. And there we go. So the shift of viewpoint here, the same planetary system viewed from two reference points yields two different charts. We see the geocentric chart, how it feels from Earth, and that shift of viewpoint brings us to heliocentric chart, solar system architecture. So same planets, different reference. So how positions differ. Inner versus outer planets. We see the numerical difference between a planet's geocentric and heliocentric longitude. It depends chiefly on its distance from the Sun and on the Earth's position in its own orbit. For the outer planets, the two longitudes are usually close, and for the inner planets, they can differ by many degrees or even lie in different signs. Here is an approximate scale of longitude difference between the geocentric and heliocentric positions. So we see the planet typical geo-helio difference and the notes. So Mercury can exceed 20 degrees through 28 degrees, with the largest divergence. Geocentric Mercury can be anywhere relative to heliocentric. Venus, often 10 through 20 degrees, adding, and we see significant inferior superior conjunction geometry. Earth Sun doesn't have a typical geo-helio difference. However, in helio charts, Earth replaces the geo-Sun position, opposite. And we see Mars, usually a few degrees to 10 degrees, with moderate, larger near opposition geometry. And we see Jupiter, Pluto, typically less than 2 degrees through 5 degrees. So small outer planets nearly agree in both frames. Now, consequently, a heliocentric chart, if the outer planets often look surprisingly similar to its geocentric counterpart, while the positions of Mercury, Venus, and to a lesser extent Mars can change the aspect pattern substantially. The Moon, of course, has no standard helio longitude in natal work. Alright, let's look at the planetary nodes. Helio and Geo. Every planet's orbit intersects the ecliptic at two nodes. The helio nodes are the true orbital nodes relative to the Sun. They move extremely slow, tens of arc minutes per century, and are effectively fixed for ordinary chart work. The Geo nodes are the apparent intersections as seen from Earth. For Mercury and Venus, they can sweep the whole zodiac in the course of a year, while for the outer planets, they stay within a narrow band around the helio value. In here we see helio nodes are nearly stationary. Geo nodes, especially the inner planets, range more widely, with the ecliptic again all the way on our left. And we see that our helio node is also on the left, nearly stationary, with our geo node range really on the right, the far right, varies through the year, especially inner planets. However, astrologers who work with planetary nodes therefore choose deliberately the helio node as a long-term sensitive degree, or the geo node is a more dynamic annual factor. See also the companion helium on invisible nodes for tabulated positions. Here is practical uses of each system. We see geo primary applications as well as helio primary applications. Now for geo, natal charts, synastry, composite, and Davison charts. Horary and electional astrology, houses and angles are essential. Mundane astrology of events experienced on Earth, transits, progressions, and directions, the natal geo chart, lunar phases, VOC, eclipses, VOC moon, any technique that depends on the local horizon or meridian. And for helio, mapping the objective solar system, configuration at birth or event, research into collective or generational patterns, outer planet helio aspects, planetary nodes, and their fundamental helio form, studies of orbital resonance, perihelion, aphelion timing, and systemic cycles, complementary reading alongside the geochart for a dual perspective, and certain specialized schools that treat the heliochart as an evolutionary or soul-level map. So really quick, let me just do something really quick. Whenever I'm recording is whenever I get the most ideas for like more videos. I'm like, damn. Whenever I'm not recording, I'm like, I have to come up with something. I have to come up with another video idea. So here we see choosing a reference frame according to the question being asked. This table shows the question task, as well as preference, and reason why. So how does this feel? What happens here? We notice you should go with Geo, because Earth is the locus of experience. What is the solar system pattern? Helio. Sun is the dynamical center. Houses, ascendant, midheaven. Geo only requires a local horizon. Retrogrades and stations. Geo. Optical effects from Earth. Planetary nodes long term. Helio. True orbital nodes. Lunar phases in VOC moon. Geo. Moon is Earth moon phenomenon. And we see outer planet generational aspects, either often similar, small longitude difference. We're looking at worked examples. So for example, Mercury, we can suppose that Geomercury is at 15 degrees Virgo, while Heliomercury is at 28 degrees Leo. In the geochart, Mercury may form a tight square to a natal geomoon or ascendant. So the native experiences mental restlessness or critical perception in that life area. And then we see in the heliochart, the same planet may instead trine a Helio-Jupiter, suggesting an underlying pattern of expansive communication or teaching that is less visible in the day-to-day geo-weather. Reading both frames together can distinguish how it feels from what the deeper configuration supports. Now we're going to look at example B, which is outer planet conjunction. So a geochart has a Geo-Saturn-Uranus conjunction, and its helio counterpart will usually fall within a few degrees of each other. So both charts will therefore register a similar structural tension between order and breakthrough. The geochart adds the texture of houses, lunar aspects, and the local angles, while the heliochart emphasizes the pure orbital relationship of the two bodies as a systemic signature of the era. An example C is Earth in the heliochart. In a helionatal chart of the position of Earth is opposite the geo sun. So some practitioners read this Earth point as a symbol of the embodied material focus of the life, the where of incarnation within the solar system, while the geo sun continues to describe conscious purpose as experienced on Earth. The two are complementary rather than contradictory. Combining both perspectives, many contemporary practitioners keep the geochart as the primary map of personal experience, and they add the heliochart as a second later. So useful questions would include which aspects remain when the viewpoint shifts to the sun. These may be more structural or collective. Which aspects appear only in the geoframe. These may be more experiential or optical. How does the Helio-Mercury-Venus pattern reframe the geo-story of mind and relating? What does the Earth point helio add to the reading of the geo-sun? The goal is not to replace one system with the other, but to hold both coordinates, the lift sky, and the solar system architecture in a single interpretive field. So guidelines and cautions. And then we're going to look at that appendix. So first, always state which reference frame you are using. Mixing geo and helio longitudes in the same aspect list without label produces confusion. Next, houses and angles are geo by definition. Do not import them unchanged into a heliochart without a clear methodological decision. Next, the moon belongs to the geo and topocentric realm. Helio ordinarily omits it or treats the Earth-Moon system as a unit. Next, for outer planets, the two frames often converge. For Mercury and Venus, they frequently diverge. Prioritize heliodata when the question is systemic, geodata when the question is experiential. And high precision ephemeris, for example, Swiss ephemera supply both geo and helio positions. Use them rather than approximate conversions. Here we see a quick reference, side-by-side summary, condensed comparison of the two reference frames. Really quick, I'll just say this on the bottom. Geocentric astrology describes the sky as it meets human life, okay? Heliocentric astrology describes the solar system as it is ordered around its center. Both are valid maps. Each is complete only for the questions it is designed to answer. And position should always be taken from a current high precision ephemeris. This volume is intended for study, orientation, and reflective practice. So here we see the feature, geo and helio. And we notice the center, Earth, geo, sun, helio. Moon, geo, yes, phases, nodes, VOC, but not in helio. It's local to Earth. Retrogrades, yes, optical in geo, no in helio, steady orbital motion. Houses, angles, yes in geo, not in a standard form in helio. Earth as point, implied observer in geo, in helio, explicit planet with opposition in geo, sun. Planetary nodes, annual range, especially inner geo, and nearly fixed helio. Best for experience timing houses geo, system pattern, node cycles helio. Inner planet difference, reference geo, and for helio can be large, signs may differ. And we see for outer planet difference, reference, usually small for helio. Thank you for watching this video with peace and love. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, see you now.